So we're here finally to look at Scoptophobia. That's it, thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you did, can you please leave a comment down below? Is there ever a time where you feel like you're being watched or just slightly stared at, even if you're in a room on your own? Even from walking down a high street and feeling the eyes of judging teens, or even people just wandering around actually wondering what you're doing yourself, or even when you're in the shower and you put shampoo on and it goes over your eyes, and the minute you close your eyes that demon girl comes out from behind the glass. Okay! And if you haven't guessed, Scoptophobia is the phobia of being watched or stared at by something. This is an interesting phobia actually because it's pretty unique, meaning that it's both a social phobia, meaning that you react by being judged or even being embarrassed, you know, just in social situations, but it's also a specific phobia, meaning like an irrational fear, so people will actually go out of their way to avoid this, and it can actually be put in both categories, which is quite interesting. In this case, this is a phobia I totally understand, and I'm actually going to be a bit real here, but as a young kid I was actually bullied a lot and hated where I live, or at least I felt like everyone hated me where I live. Therefore, when I was younger I felt a little bit like an outcast, maybe a bit isolated. I just felt alone in general, and this actually sort of caused me to have a bit of a phobia when it comes to, well, large crowds of people. Okay, stop the violence. Look, I just want to take a moment to say, yeah, this was a bad thing. It was rough. It's true. It changed me. I learned from this. I grew from this. And, well, I'm glad this happened because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't know who I would be today. So, yeah, I learned from this and grow from this. And if you're going through something like this, then, you know, just know that things will get better. So it's okay, you know? Anyway, on with the video. So let's talk about Scoptophobia in gaming, and oh boy is this fucking present in almost every single game you play. From the entirety of Man of Medan to the oddly creepy atmospheric Red Dead Redemption 2, this phobia can be present, and this phobia can almost act up at any moment in any video game, so it doesn't just go to horror games, though there are certain few that really capitalise on this. But for me personally, I want to take you all the way back to PlayStation 2. No, not San Andreas, you can go away. I'm talking about a specific sound. What on earth? Seriously, whose idea was it to put this in here? This sound alone summoned a demon in my house. I knew for a fact from this sound it would probably give you chills. The thick atmosphere and the completely unneeded... It became something that I would actually fear on quite a common occasion. Whenever I want to play a game, my heart would sort of panic and hope that the game would work because I didn't want to hear this sound. It's just completely eerie and creepy. Imagine a little young me sitting in a room on his own in the dark and this thing pops up. But for me, if I'm going to talk about a key moment when this phobia popped up when I was playing a video game, I'm going to have to talk about Halo 1. No, not the flood, that's child play compared to what I'm about to talk about. I'm talking about waiting for my brother to get back at 1 AM in the morning to get a drink, and me just walking around on my own in the multiplayer map Sidewinder, on my own, no one else in the map. It was completely weird, it was creepy, atmospheric, the wind, it's horrible. I can't explain how I felt, but there's something about it that I felt like a jump scare was about to happen, very much like Lisa was about to come up behind me. Obviously it wasn't a thing at that point, but I felt like I was about to be grabbed. I felt like something was stalking me, and I just had to turn it off or just had to pause the game and wait for my brother to come back. Actually, this was quite odd because last time I actually felt this in a Halo game was in Halo Reach Forward World, and I don't know about you, but there is something quite eerie about this map. I mean, look at it. It's quite empty, it's large. These mountains tell you that something's peeking around there and people are waiting for you, or something is waiting for you out here, and there's a secret to be told, but nothing happens. And it's eerie, it's lonely, it's just so atmospheric that you always feel like there's permanent eyes on you. But if we're going to talk about Scoptophobia in video games, we're going to have to take it back to the godfather of survival horror, Resident Evil 2. And this is one of the most incredible and probably one of the most important games made of all time. And I don't have to tell you why. There's millions and hundreds of videos out there telling you exactly why you should play Resident Evil 2. But there's an aspect of the Resident Evil series that gets overlooked, and they clearly are a master at doing, and that's the sense of being watched. That's the sense of dread, and that's the sense that you're never going to be safe. The way that they show fear and they actually intimidate you with their camera angles is near perfection, and maybe one of the most important moments in the whole of Resident Evil 2, and clearly maybe one of the most iconic moments in the whole of Resident Evil franchise, is the first time you meet the Licker, and I want to use the camera angles here to explain to you how they use Scoptophobia in this series. From the second that you go through the door, you're greeted with this incredible tilted downward angle shot, and this shot here replicates the feeling of being weak and even vulnerable, and this game also covers up a lot of the map, only actually putting you in frame along with the window. But this shot also tells you something that you really need to know about what's about to come up. From the way that this thing looks down at you, you can see that it can clearly climb on walls. It's looking down on you like it preys on enemies from below, and it's clearly going to be upwards somewhere. It's going to be on the ceiling, or at least it feels like it can stalk you from the darkness. As you move forward, you are greeted with 2 wide shots, and this helps you learn the lay of the land. This tells you how big this hall is, and this tells you exactly what you're working with and whatever may be waiting for you around the next corner. And you're probably thinking that these wide shots aren't important, especially to this phobia, but the old school Resident Evils used this quite a lot, and it actually used it throughout the series when it came to these locked camera angles, but we'll get to that very soon. As you go around the corner, this reveals to us another downwards pointing shot, and also a wide shot showing us once again the lay of the land, but also revealing a corpse, meaning that this thing is a mean killer and it will kill you instantly and possibly aim for the head. As you keep walking forward, then we get the reveal of the licker. This thing jumps down from the ceiling, which is where the cameras have been pointed the whole time, and it actually puts you on a level playing field. And remember earlier when I spoke about these big wide long shots and why they actually mean something? These are arenas, and these are actually used throughout the entire Resident Evil series. And what these do is they make a clear level playing field for the player to be able to take on any enemy, and you may not even notice it, but these are in the game quite a handful of times, and you can actually learn enemy placements from these actually being there because you expect something to happen in these areas. Resident Evil Remake is a fantastic example of this, and it actually plays with so many expectations by using its camera angle. So for example, after you meet the first zombie and you go back into the west wing, as you move back down to the corridor when you first met him, he's no longer there. But this camera angle is Dutched, it's tilted, it's facing towards you, and it's saying to you there's a whole entire another hallway right behind your back right now, and you also feel like you're being watched. This can't be an arena camera shot because there's clearly not enough to work with, though you can easily take on an enemy in this environment. This is more of a POV shot, and lo and behold, as you look back up that hallway, the zombie is standing right there. And they actually do this throughout the whole entire of the game. So think about when you go back into the graveyard, as you're about to go down into the catacombs, there's this cool shot of the gates. Behind the gate, there is also a zombie. They use these POVs. The zombies aren't always there, so these POVs are always going to be there, and they're not always going to tell you that it means something's looking at you, but they know where they place their enemies, and they know exactly how their camera works, so they know that they can use it to almost warn the enemy that you are literally being watched every single second, and even sometimes this can be a reveal of where a monster is standing or where something is waiting for you. And to play with expectations from the player, they use it so perfectly in the West Wing. Probably one of my most favourite camera shots in the whole of this whole entire game is when you're going first into that West Wing area where this dead corpse is. So let me explain. As you come into it, you're first greeted with a forward facing shot, and it's almost telling you that there is something behind this camera waiting for you to reveal, and all you have to do is literally push forward, and as you keep walking forward, the camera backs away and then watches and guides you down the hallway. As you come out of this small cramped claustrophobic hallway, you're greeted with this dead guy. This guy is never to be trusted, and I can imagine every single player of this game has probably assumed this guy is getting up eventually, and I can imagine you probably took a few shots. Let me tell you something, this guy will never stand up, but this guy sticks out. This guy is always alive, and you don't even know it. As you make your way up the stairs, you are then greeted with this lower shot, which is actually from the ground, and as you walk up the stairs, this camera pans up with you. This camera is this guy's POV. This shows exactly what he's looking at. He is not dead. He is watching your every single move, and he is paying you for a fool. And this is perfect because it's a completely different way to make you feel terrified, or even let you make you feel tense with zombies. You don't have to use them in combat to let them know that they're generally creepy. This is perfect, and I do love this. They constantly remind you that this is what they're masters of throughout the series. You're probably thinking, hey, how did they keep and even retain this sense of being watched throughout the series when they keep changing the camera angles with almost every new updated version of the games? Let me tell you with Resident Evil 4 for example, think about it. One of the first out of cutscene camera angle changes is literally someone watching you approach the house, a POV shot, and this instantly reminds the player that you are not safe, and no matter what you do, you are being watched, just like the old games. The game may have literally changed, but it doesn't mean the rules are different, and this is so perfectly illustrated in this part, which makes this counter even more intense and terrifying because he knew you was coming. There's no reason for him to do what he was doing by his fireplace because he was already prepared for you to be there. Also, why does he turn around the other way? Do you remember when Leon's like, have you seen this little girl? And then he turns around to the right. Why not just turn left? He's right there. What are you, fucking Zoolander? What are you? I don't get it.
I'm not an ambi-turner. It's a problem I had since I was a baby. I can't turn left.
And though the later games are in first person, this feeling still hasn't left. think about Granny just watching your every single move as you make your way through the mansion, or even think about the Resident Evil beginning hour demo. And I think this is where it properly shows that they haven't changed their ways, and they always remind you you're being watched. There is this ghost girl that appears throughout the tape randomly, and she is completely creepy. I can't tell if she's Mia because she's clearly not wearing the same clothes, but whoever she is very off-putting from the weird ways that she watches you, very much like Lisa does in PT. This is fantastic because it reminds you that, hey, yeah, you may feel like you are alone, but remember, you're not. But I'm not just giving Resident Evil all the credit. It's not like this is the only survival horror game that actually does this. This is present in almost every single horror game. Games like Outlast 2, when you first enter the town and you literally have eyes beaming on you. And even think about fantastic games like Silent Hill 2. The walk through the forest at the beginning of that game is fucking incredible. The panning of the camera as it hides behind trees as you're constantly fighting to regain control of the camera replicates the feeling of being watched and having no control over what is happening in this situation. The sounds, the grinding, the wind, the fog, you have no idea what you're walking into, but all you know is that you're not safe and you know there is something waiting for you at the end of that path. Could talk about PT all day long, but no thanks, because as PT, no. For me, I've noticed that I get this feeling when I'm left in big open spaces. As I mentioned, the Halo map, when I'm walking around alone, the Halo Reach Forge map, it's so empty, it's big, it's vast, but for me that feels like the ever more reason why there is something waiting for you. The weird loneliness of Red Dead Redemption 2, and of course just being sat in the middle of the ocean, coming back around to my fear of Phasmophobia. I don't understand why I should feel this way. I'm not sure why I feel like there's eyes beaming on me when I'm left in the open, but it almost makes me feel vulnerable, and it makes me feel like anything can happen at any moment. But I don't treat this as a bad thing when it does happen in games, especially games like Red Dead Redemption's case. When you're walking around and you feel like something is watching you and you feel like there's a tense atmosphere, that is good. That helps me get a little bit more immersed in the situation. That lets me tell a story. That lets the game tell me a story. That makes me feel like there is something actually going on in this world and there's something here worth experiencing. Yeah, I feel tense. Yeah, I feel like my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, but I indulge in this and I let it immerse me. I let it take over every single feeling I have towards that moment of the game and just enjoy it, because it's quite rare that you get these sort of interactions and even emotional feelings towards video games. So yeah, I think it's a pretty cool feeling, but it is also very creepy. I hope this video was insightful and I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear your feelings on this, and maybe if you have similar experiences with this phobia from playing games that really have no horror atmospheres about it, but you still sort of feel a little bit panicked, or you feel like you're not alone, I don't know, I think it would be fun to hear. Thank you all so much for watching, and I also just want to say thank you overall, because over the last 2 months this channel has grown quite a lot, and I really do appreciate everyone who subscribed. I appreciate everyone who enjoyed my Phasmophobia videos and people who are actually enjoying these phobia videos, because I'm having a blast. I love sitting down, researching these, talking about them, and just sort of exploring how they can work in video games. It's a ton of fun. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and of course I'll see you at the next checkpoint. Goodbye.